Okay, so getting back to the little souvenir pack that we got from Battleship Cove. The keychain is actually in my truck, so I can't show you the keychain right now. But we have gotten the model, the Battleship Massachusetts, a 1/720 scale. This is Revell. And one of the things with the book. The book is called Battleship Cove, A Voyage of Discovery, the Maritime Museum. And you got a beautiful picture of the Massachusetts with the side guns. And I think this is actually like Memorial Day or something when they were firing off out of tribute or respect for the fallen soldiers. And we've got our beautiful 1350 trumpeter, USS Massachusetts. Now we are going to do a build on this. I just got a bunch of things going on right now. Let me show you guys. Right now, I've been working on the Flying Dutchman. I'm just trying to get her finished because this is going to be a Halloween build. And I actually started this in mid-July. And I'm new to this. And this is the first really big high-quality wood model ship that I make. So I'm very green to this, and I'm made a lot of mistakes in this, but as of right now, it's September 10th, and I still got a lot to do on that model, and I want to get it done by Halloween. So that's what I've been doing right now, primarily. But we will get to this, even if it's just an unboxing. To start with, show you guys the model. I wanted to get the aftermarket kit for this, but it's just way too ridiculously expensive, so I'll never be able to get that. But I've got the benefit of living near the ship, so I can do the details and the authenticity that way. So let's get into the book. Again, this is Battleship Cove, A Voyage of Discovery of the Maritime Museum. And it's not a huge book, but this is got a lot of information on it. This is by John Galluzzo, and it's by the Donning Company Publishers. There's nothing like Memorial Day salute at Battleship Cove. Beautiful. So when we look in the inside, this was done in 2018, and you can see the address. 5 Water Street, Fall River, Mass. 02721. And it has the book information, and on the bottom you can see with more than 1,000 sailors aboard, USS Massachusetts was like a small town unto itself. Let me take a look at the table of contents, and you can see the galley. So we got Welcome to Battleship Cove, USS Massachusetts, USS Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., USS Lionfish, SS-298, PT Boats 617 and 798, the Hidden Sea, the aircraft, the Maritime Museum, conservation, volunteering, and plan a visit today. So I've done a history video on the Massachusetts, the Kennedy, the Lionfish, the PT boats. I haven't done the Hidden Sea yet. I haven't done the aircraft. Not yet. That'll be another video. And the Maritime Museum is one that I really want to go to, because they actually have a filming model from Titanic, one of the movies. I think it's A Night to Remember, but I'm not sure, so I really got to get there. Conservation, volunteering, and planning a visit. So when we open it up, we see Welcome to Battleship Cove, and you can see the absolutely beautiful BB-59 USS Massachusetts, who is indeed the star of Battleship Cove. So they give some information. I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but I do want to do some kind of little, I want to do the introduction, because this kind of covers it as a whole. Not the whole thing, just the first page of it. The world's largest collection of historic Navy vessels tells a dramatic story when taken as a whole. But it's when a visitor steps into the decks of each individual ship that the immersion into America's naval history truly begins. For heritage tourism travelers, there is no other experience like Battleship Cove. By taking just a few steps, one can be transported to Casablanca through the Panama Canal, to Tirana, Saipan, Guam, and the South China Sea. And that's just aboard the USS Massachusetts. Step aboard the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. for a post-war experience, combat in the Korean War, cruises in the Caribbean and Mediterranean, and the recovery of the operation of the Gemini 12 crew. Slip beneath the waves aboard the USS Lionfish as a witness to the Pacific Theater of Operations at the end of World War II. Visit PT Boats 617 and 796 and observe the boldness of America's motor torpedo sailing boats, with the sailors charged with attacking much larger enemy ships in these fast-moving rapid strike vessels. For another view of the world's Navy, visit the Hidden Sea, Soviet-built corvette constructed for the East German People's Navy, the only vessel of its kind in exhibit today in the United States. For children, Battleship Cove represents a world of discovery. The grandeur of the USS Massachusetts begs extensive exploration, while the closeness of the quarters of the USS Lionfish asks kids to put themselves in the place of our submarine sailors of old. Throughout the many exhibits, the faces of America's soldiers of old stare back, in quizzical, youthful faces, just pleading to have their stories heard. State-of-the-art special effects define the Pearl Harbor experience, and an exhibit that transport one back to the day that we all will know will live in infamy. But standing on a deck of the USS Massachusetts and looking to the horizon with just little knowledge of the ship's past, little imagination, can carry on through time as well. Battleship Cove is a place of tangible history, invigorating personal discovery of learning, and a reminder of the price of freedom. It's a gathering place, reunion home for America's servicemen and women, an overnight camping adventure destination for scout groups, and more. It's driven by the love of its members, by its donors' belief in a mission to honor patriotism and country, and the hard work of the many volunteers who dedicate themselves to year after year of scraping, painting, rewiring, and otherwise bringing Battleship Cove to life year-round for the public's enjoyment. So this is a very special place. It's located in Fall River, Massachusetts, and we're lucky to have this close by. This is probably about, on a good day, 25 minutes away. And you can see the beautiful battleship. Silenced now, the guns of the USS Massachusetts spoke loudly on behalf of the United States during World War II. And here's a fascinating tidbit about the battleship Massachusetts. She actually fired the first shot of World War II, and she actually fired the last shot. So she opened and closed World War II. So that's a little interesting tidbit. They have a lot of the history, the captain, the location of her launch. You can see a beautiful photograph of her flying her flags. USS Massachusetts has been a fixture in Fall River since 1965. And on the bottom you can see Saving Big Mammy. The story of the USS Massachusetts is almost exciting as her career at sea. And the little table, I'll show you guys a little bit of the information on her. USS Massachusetts, designation BB-59. She's 680.8 feet. Her beam is 108.2 feet. Her draft is 29.3 feet. She can go 27 knots at a top speed. She was launched on September 23rd of 1941. She was sponsored by Francis Adams, and she was commissioned on May 12th of 1942. She was decommissioned on March 27th of 1947. It talks about life on board for the sailors. You can see a couple men in their bunk. The U.S. Navy's World War II sailors understood conditions would be tight aboard ship. And you can see some of the exhibits. Exhibits aboard the Massachusetts. bring visitors close to the sailor's experience in an all-new down to the uniforms and experiences in new ways. And you can see the Massachusetts propulsion system had a push of 680 feet, foot-long ship at 27 knots. The knowledge of the intricacies of the ship's systems had to be second nature to the crew, no matter how many dials, valves, and levers there were. Look at that beautiful picture. We got some more. We got the rear, the 16-inch guns with the blast bags, which keep the water and the overpressure of the blast from infiltrating the turret. Next, we have the 16-inch gun shells that could fire 2 shells per minute, each weighing between 2,240 and 2,700 pounds. South Dakota-class battleship carried their own seaplanes, secured portside aft. Of course, that's not with her anymore. I don't even think that the launch is still there anymore. And you can see some of the exhibits that they have aboard ship. Let's see, World War II Navy gun crews wore the best safety equipment the service had to offer them. You can see the 40 millimeter gun turrets were added to the ship after its commissioning. And the USS Massachusetts is home to numerous exhibits with artifacts representation of many themes for World War II, including Medal of Honor. And I love how they do this, because going through the ship so many times, I know almost all the exhibits by heart. The flag, the battle flag flown by the Massachusetts during its fight, and the Jean Bart on its display aboard the ship. And then you can see in the top right, also with the exhibits to the Massachusetts include Women Protecting Us, salute to the many roles women played in World War II. Then you can see on the bottom, as you are piped aboard, you will step back in the past and be greeted by a member of the ship's crew. You can see more of the information with more of the members. 4 self-guided tours are available for guests to discover a sailor's life at sea, topside World War II, below deck, and crew. Now we move on to the Joseph P. Kennedy. You can see she's a beautiful destroyer. The Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. is a National Historic Landmark. She's 850. So it shows a little bit of her history as well. And show you some photos, the same thing. The administrative space or the office aboard ship. The destroyer bears resemblance to any shoreside office, save for the portholes. The Navy medical officers had prepared and equipped to deal with the medical emergencies at sea. You can see the hospital, or sick bay, excuse me. And although the conditions look Spartan, the Battleship Cove visitors today, ordinary seamen dreamed of the accommodations afforded chiefs and officers. So this is the officers' mess. Looking into the engine room, the silence of the engines today bears witness to the Kennedys Jr.'s decommissioned status. The sailor's cap hangs in memory of those who heard them roar. And this is the ship engines propel the destroyer at 35 knots. And you can see below decks, the engines and the other systems required to operate the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. had to remain clean in order to properly perform their jobs. Here's a beautiful picture of her with her flags. At 390 feet, the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. is explored by visitors of Battleship Cove. So now let's take a look at her information. This is the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. DD-850. She's 390 feet 6 inches long. Her beam is 40 feet 10 inches. Her draft is 14 feet 4 inches, and she's got a top speed of 35.25 knots. She was launched on July 26 of 1945, and she was sponsored by Jean Kennedy Smith. decommissioned on December 15th of 1945. Commissioned on December 15, 1945, and decommissioned on July 2nd of 1973. You can see the armament still there, but they stand as reminders of the sacrifices of American sailors during the Cold War era. USS Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. stands at attention as the U.S. Navy flag band plays at a memorial event. So now we move to the Lionfish. She's a submarine, and I love it. Look, you can see the Japanese vehicles that she destroyed. Stealthy and, what does that say? Clandestine U.S. Navy subs like the USS Lionfish have to serve all over the world. And shows her history on that page. Going on the inside, you can see as crowded conditions could be on the surface, the ship's tight and narrow barely describe conditions on submerged vessels like the Lionfish. So we got a little bit of information on her now. She's the USS Lionfish, SS-298. Her length is 311 feet 6 inches. Her beam is 27 feet 3 inches. Her draft is 16 feet 10 inches. And she's got a surface speed of 20 1/4 knots, and her submerged speed is 8 3/4 knots. She was launched on November 7th of 1943, sponsored by Mrs. Harold C. Train. She was commissioned on November 1st of 1944 and decommissioned on January 16th of 1946. And you can see torpedoes gave great firepower to submarines, but also gave away the position when fired. You can see, it's interesting because the torpedo room down at the front of the ship, they also had the bunks that they put up on the side, so they really used all the space on the submarine. That was really an interesting experience. So speaking of the torpedoes, the torpedo room's lighting helps visitors understand what conditions could be like as the USS Lionfish was submerged and ready for battle. Here's a nice picture of her. Even when surfaced, submarines like the Lionfish could defend themselves, but their firepower grew exponentially when submerged. The bow and the stern of the planes help submerged submarines dive surface or remain on the same plane in the water. And the gun up front, the Lionfish's 5-inch deck gun, sits just aft of the conning tower. I've actually got a model of this that we're going to be doing at some point as well. Now we move on to the PT boats. And I think this is 617. No, this is PT-796. And this one is known as Tall Ender. You can see the helm. The PT boat steering gear resembled the ancient ship's wheels used for sailors all over the world for centuries. We actually were not able to go aboard the PT boats. They're housed in a big hangar, and we get to walk up one side and down the other, where we're not allowed to go aboard the PT boats. So fast, heavily armed, and armored, PT boats like 617 struck quickly and inflicted heavy damage. On the bottom, you can see PT-796 could reach 41 knots, or about 47 miles per hour, which is pretty quick. So we got another table for the ships. So PT-617, her length is 80 feet. Her beam is 20 feet and her draft is 5 feet 6 inches. Her top speed is 40 knots. So she was launched on July 28th of 1945. She was completed on September 21st of 1945, and then later taken out of service on January 28th of 1946. PT-796, her length is 78 feet, her beam is 20 feet 8 inches, and her draft is 4 feet. Her speed is 41 knots, and she was laid down on May 3rd of 1945 and completed October 26th of 1945 and taken out of service on July 7th of 1970. So on the top you can see the crews really strayed far from their vessels and had accommodations for eating. You can see the mess or the galley. Maintenance of the engines on PT boats could mean life or death for the crews, who depended on their speed and exclusiveness in battle. And this is pretty cool because, like I said, we're not allowed to go aboard, so I've never seen this section in person. You can see the gun. The PT boats carried machine guns, torpedoes, and an array of small weapons for versatility in combat. And again, we weren't allowed to go aboard. So now we go over to the missile corvette Hidden Sea from the Soviet Union. Russian built, served East Germany, and the United States. So she's been around. And you can see the visitors to Battleship Cove boarding Hidden Sea get a rare opportunity into the United States to step aboard a ship that served under another nation. And you see the top picture. That's the perfect, let's see, that was the mess hall. I think that was the officer's mess. And you can see the officer's office on the bottom. It also has some information on her. She's 57 meters long, or 183 feet 9 inches. Her beam is 34 feet 5 inches, and her draft is 8 feet 2 inches. Her top speed is 42 knots. She was laid down in 1984, commissioned in 1985, and decommissioned April 18th of 1996. So you can see the streamlining of the engines through time is evident as one steps from the Massachusetts to the Joseph P. Kennedy to the Hidden Sea. Of course, the Hidden Sea is a lot smaller. Systems may differ, but engineers working on naval ships all over the world speak the same language. And you can see the torpedo. Built for speed and heavy strike capability, carried 4 anti-ship missile launchers. And the intentions could be ready by the presence of its forward-facing 6mm AK-176 dual-purpose main gun. So taking a look at the aircraft. Thousands of American World War II aviators trained on T-6 Texans. Starting in 1949, they took to the skies in T-28 Trojans like the one at Battleship Cove. And it shows some of the history on the aircraft. We got the Bell AH-1 Cobra that served the United States Army as an attack helicopter. And then we have the drone, served on ships too small to carry their own helicopter in the 60s. And this one is new. I haven't seen this one yet. 2 Navy drones are on display at Battleship Cove, QH-50C and Dash Snoopy. And this is the dependable Bell's UH-1, or the Huey. The Iroquois has been in use since 1956. So looking at the Maritime Museum now, as many times as I've been to Battleship Cove, I've actually never been to the Maritime Museum because it always seems to be closed. But I definitely want to see it because they have the Titanic model from the filming movie, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the Maritime Museum, you can see some of the things that they feature. This is the grandeur of the age of sail, a showcase through model of ships like the HMS Bounty. And here is the Titanic. Maritime Museum scale model of the RMS Titanic appeared in the 1953 movie Titanic, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Clifton Webb, and Robert Wagner. Okay, so it wasn't A Night to Remember. But still, I got to see that filming model. And you can see the bottom Looks like, I'm not sure who that lady is, but she's looking at the models, and I would love to go through. Like I said, I gotta visit that place when it's open. That would be a great video, just seeing the Titanic model alone. Then it goes into the conservation, helping the preserve the history. You can see the guy with the bell for the Massachusetts, the volunteering, the history lessons. And finally, you can plan a visit, the overnight programs where you could actually go and sleep aboard the battleship. And on the back, we have a beautiful picture of the battleship Massachusetts. So this book isn't huge, but it packs a lot of information. And I love how it just goes into detail about all the ships and everything that's at Battleship Cove. If you're ever in the New England area, and you get a chance to go to Battleship Cove, you won't be disappointed. Like I said, it's in Fall River, and you'll learn so much. And we're lucky enough to see this beautiful lady every time we go there. This is the USS Massachusetts, BB-59, the South Dakota class battleship. And incidentally, she fired the first and the last shot of World War II. So my friends, my next video on the Battleship Cove, the Battleship Massachusetts, I do have a book on the Massachusetts that I want to show you guys about. It goes into a little bit more detail on her. So I'm not sure if I'm going to show you the book first, or we'll do the unboxing of the battleship from Trumpeter first. But this was for the Battleship Cove, a voyage of discovery. So my friends, I hope you enjoyed the video. Until my next video, I'll talk to you soon.